Along with the emotional moments, incredible plays, and heated matches, one of the things that make the sports industry such an interesting one is the stories and legacies that players build for themselves throughout their careers. Just like any other major league, the NBA has seen its share of elite players that left a lasting impact on its history by making something that hadn't ever been done before or that remains as an unreachable feat to date. Bill Russell won the most championships in league history. Wilt Chamberlain put ridiculous scoring numbers on a daily basis. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar shattered the career scoring record. And Michael Jordan had a perfect 6-for-6 finals run in 8 years. And as the seasons have continued to go by, other talents have taken the spotlight, looking to create their own path and earn a spot among the greatest players ever. Among them, there's one that's been breaking records since 2003 and deserves all the attention he's received. Welcome to Courtside. Today we'll talk about how the career of LeBron James has been one of the most unique and how it continues to defy logic and even time itself. Throughout the current season, one of the most talked about stories has been the excellent play of James, who, despite being in his 17th year in the league, continues showing a level that would make you think that he's a few years younger than he is. And while it's probable that most NBA fans were already aware of that information by now, it still must be highlighted given that it fits right into the category of things that hadn't been done before by a player. When the 2010s were starting, there were no doubts about LeBron being the best player in the league at the moment. However, it was expected that this title would be taken from him as he went into his 30s. But as things stand today, no one has been able to take the throne away from the king. Many players have emerged in recent years as competitors for this position, but none has managed to outperform the Accra native for a long enough period to effectively conclude that his time as the face of the league has ended. As a matter of fact, most people thought that Bron wouldn't be able to bounce back after a season in which he suffered the first major injury of his career, but he made sure to prove them wrong, not only by playing as good as he always does, but also by making improvements in some areas of his game. During the current season, he became the Lakers' primary ball handler, and the move resulted in him leading the league in assists, becoming the oldest player to do it for the first time in his career, as well as the first to average over 25 points and 10 assists in the same season at age 30 or older. But as impressive as that was, probably his major improvement came on the other end of the court. Once a candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year award, James's effort on defense hadn't been the best in recent years, which led to many criticizing how he didn't seem to put enough of an effort on that area of his game. So when the Lakers acquired an excellent defensive anchor in Anthony Davis and hired a coach that was renowned for his defensive schemes, LeBron had no choice but to step up his play on defense to make sure that his teammates would follow his example. The combination of his and Davis's play, along with Vogel's leadership from the bench, helped make Los Angeles one of the best defensive teams in the league, something that has fueled their playoff run so far. Now, seeing how he changed his game from a year ago, one would expect to see his offensive output decline when compared to last season, but that hasn't been the case. While Davis has carried the biggest load on offense, Bron still averaged 25.3 points and grabbed a considerable number of rebounds per game. He was also able to do all of this while playing a career-low 34.6 minutes per game as part of his team's plan to preserve his body for the season, given that he turned 35 in the previous year. His excellent play and leadership helped take the Lakers back to the top of the Western Conference for the first time since 2010, a place most of his critics said he would never reach, as they claimed he had only been successful because of playing in the weaker Eastern Conference. This resulted in him finishing as the runner-up for the MVP trophy, and while there were no doubts that Giannis Antetokounmpo had a better regular season, the fact that he received only 16 first-place votes surprised many, including him. He made his disgust public shortly after, and his comments started a debate on what most valuable player really means. The discussion had various media members and players involved, and even Kevin Durant, arguably the only real threat for the title of the best player in the league, said that if the playoffs were taken into consideration, LeBron would have won his 5th MVP. Still, while James repeated that he was only concerned about winning the Larry O'Brien trophy, it's safe to say that the MVP voting has served him as fuel to continue his dominant run, and sadly for the Denver Nuggets, they were on the receiving end of his anger. We all know the story by now. The Lakers and Nuggets were on the opposite ends of a 3-1 series leads in their previous rounds, but while the purple and gold had no problem closing out Portland and Houston, Denver had to go into a historic run to survive the Jazz and Clippers to earn a spot in the West Finals. And while Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and company managed to put up a good fight, they couldn't avoid a third straight 3-1 hole that immediately made many people wonder whether Los Angeles would be able to close them out or if Denver had enough left in the tank to make another comeback. As Game 5 started, LeBron came out of the doors on attack mode, clearly looking to finish the series as soon as possible, but as always, the Nuggets fought back and made it a close game entering the fourth quarter. Then James decided it was time to put an end to the young star's season. He scored 16 points on the final period and made several clutch buckets to put the game away for good with about 2 minutes to go to make sure his team would reach the NBA Finals. He finished with a stat line of 38 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists to post his 27th career playoff triple-double and left no doubt of who the best player in the league was. Giannis received the MVP in the last 2 seasons, but was eliminated in the conference finals in 2019 and then in the second round this year. Kawhi Leonard, the player that many claimed had taken James' spot after leading the Toronto Raptors to a championship, wasn't able to help his team close the Nuggets out despite being up 3-1 in the second round. So while the Greek Freak failed to make it out of the East and the Claw couldn't end the Clippers' curse of not making it past the second round, the King quickly seized the opportunity to secure a finals berth and put away the resilient Nuggets once and for all. The win helped LeBron improve his all-time record on closeout games to 38-10, the best in postseason history among players with at least 25 such games. It also meant that he would participate in his 9th NBA Finals in the last 10 years and 10th overall, which ties him with Kareem for third most finals appearances and leaves him behind only Sam Jones and Bill Russell for most all-time. His number of finals appearances is not only more than that of most players, but also more than that of most franchises, as only the Warriors, Celtics, and Lakers have made it to the championship round more times than he has. In short, what James is doing is no small thing. Many people seem to take it for granted, but it's hard to blame them for it. The league's oldest star has been making it look like an easy thing to reach the finals year after year, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Many great teams are never able to find that missing piece that could help them get over the hump, and many other teams just can't develop the chemistry required to make it through the playoffs. The Rockets, Clippers, and Thunder have been perfect examples of this during the last few years. And while it's true that the East has been the weaker conference for a while now, that doesn't take away from the fact that making it out is a hard task. On his way to 8 straight finals, LeBron's teams had to make it through great Pacers, Bulls, Celtics, Raptors, and Hawks teams. It might not have been the same as facing the Spurs, Suns, or Mavericks during their best years, but James proved this year that he could do just fine against most of the West's best teams. On the other hand, both of last year's finalists in the East were unable to make it to the conference finals this time around, and the Golden State Warriors suffered the effects of making it to 5 straight finals and were forced to rest their star players during the season so they could recover. But perhaps the most impressive thing is that, despite clearly having lost part of his explosiveness, LeBron is still able to play well above the rim, is still pretty much unstoppable when running down the court at full speed, and has managed to adapt his game to his age. While he still makes a couple of incredible dunks on most nights and often leads the Lakers' transition game on offense, he started to rely a little bit more on his jump shot and post moves, much like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan did before him to extend their respective primes. He's also been comfortable with helping David become the focal point of the offense, and this allows him to focus on other ways to impact the game without needing to take on the burden of putting between 25 and 30 points in every single game. He's still capable of doing it whenever he feels like it, but he no longer needs to do it to make sure that his team has a chance to win. And this will also do wonders to extend his career. Overall, LeBron James went from being one of the most physically dominant players in the league to being arguably just a tier below that, while also improving his game in several other areas that have allowed him to remain as the unquestioned best player in the league despite being 35 years old. Probably won't have too many more years of MVP level play left in his tank, or at least that's what most of the league is expecting. But he's proving once again that he's one of the most unique and hardworking players in the league and might just be starting his final era of dominance before eventually deciding to call it a career. But now, when do you think he will actually start to slow down? Do you believe that any other player will be able to do what he's been doing over the last decade? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content, because we are Courtside.